Hi, my name is Nataly Aukar, and in my Immigrant Jam, I would put Nutella.
We are back today with one of the funniest people alive. I love this woman so much. She's the best. She's the funniest. She's the most beautiful, the coolest. She has a set out on Netflix as a joke, the YouTube channel that you can check out. She has an hour of her stand-up coming up on August 31st in New York City. If you're here at 7 p.m., she's going to tell us more about that. Please welcome the one and only Miss Nataly Aukar. Yes, yes, yes. Welcome to Immigrant Jam, the podcast. You said you would put Nutella in your Immigrant Jam?
Am I the first one who says that?
Yes, but I say that.
Yeah.
I love...
It's the best.
It's the best.
There's nothing in the world that's as good as Nutella.
Oh my God.
I just don't understand how it's not... Yeah, it's not so popular in America, and it's... I don't understand.
I don't understand either.
Because it's chocolate never tasted better than in Nutella.
Never, ever. And
I'm getting chills talking about it.
Especially like hot Nutella.
Oh, hot, cold.
I love it hot.
Oh my God.
I really hate it when people put it in the fridge. I can tolerate it, but hot Nutella?
No, you don't put Nutella in the fridge.
Ooh, Nutella crepes.
You know what's really good? Nutella crepes. Also, the fact that people don't put Nutella on pancakes here is insane.
What?
Like,
the fact that
Nutella's
people
made
don't
for
put
pancakes.
ketchup on mac and cheese here is insane. Do you think that too?
We did. My friends did that. Like, it was a thing in Lebanon. I never liked it. No. But Nutella, what I do suggest is to put Nutella in a hot dog bun
Yes,
and then put it in a panini presser.
Yes!
It's, you will never eat anything again.
I've tried to get sponsored by Nutella because I'm so obsessed with Nutella. I have Nutella earrings.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I should wear them.
I want to get a Nutella themed apartment. Like sheets.
You know that they used to have a Nutella store here on University.
And then people didn't know how to appreciate it, I'm sure.
No,
and it
exactly.
closed.
And it closed.
I can't believe that the M&M store is still open, but the Nutella store
also,
isn't.
I have to say, people who say Nutella, I just don't even want to know you.
I've never met a person who does
Some
that.
Americans say Nutella.
Because they don't eat it.
Because they don't eat it, because they don't feel it, because they don't live it.
I ate it by the spoon.
Yeah, of
like
course.
I've
You're talking
I've
past
choked on
tense?
Nutella.
I still do that. Future fucking past perfect.
I've gotten to the point where I can't bring it home.
No, I can't either. My boyfriend
anymore.
brought a small glass of Nutella home, and he was like, "This is for you because you
Like
have your
those
period."
little pots?
And I was like,
"So cute."
I know, but I was like, "You realize? No, not the little one. Like I'm small. I mean, like the like medium size, not the XL size.
Yeah,
which I usually
that one
would
is
have.
dangerous too. You know what's really good? Also, a plain croissant. You cut it open in half and you put the Nutella in.
You know what's really good too? Toast Nutella immediately while it's hot, and then you press strawberries on raspberries, not strawberries. You press raspberries on top of the toast into the Nutella,
or also strawberries and crushed walnuts.
So all right, good. Hold on a second. So
I'm losing it right now. I'm like dying for Nutella.
So we're low. Sorry, this podcast is over. We just collectively came in our pants. But Natalie, you are from Lebanon.
Yes, born and raised.
And you didn't move here till after
when I was 22. So. Yes,
college? No.
After college, yeah. When I graduated from college, I officially moved here. But I did come here also in 2006. There was a war in Lebanon in 2006, so we escaped it. We were war refugees. And we came to New York because my uncles were here.
To New York City or outside? Okay.
To New York City. And that was my first time like ever on a plane even. Like I had never left Lebanon before that. And so we came here and we spent a year here. And then we went back to Lebanon. And then I finished high school, finished college, and then I moved here.
And when you came here, you guys didn't know how long you'd be here, right?
Yeah.
You didn't know it would just be a year.
Yeah, I felt so betrayed because originally we were supposed to just be here till the war ended. And then we came, and then literally 2 weeks later, the war ended. And I was like, can we go back? I was like very young. I was 12. And even leaving during the war, I was against it. I was like, I don't want to leave. Like, I don't care if there's a war. Leave me here. It's really hard, you know, to like as a kid being like, no, we're leaving. And at the time, like, it's not like I had my phone and my Facebook and WhatsApp, and I didn't know where my friends were. I didn't know who was okay. Like, we could send an email, but you'd have to wait like 2 weeks for them to get back to you and things like that. So I didn't know where my friends were. It just felt like I was snatched away. Like, I was pissed at my parents for taking me away from Lebanon. And so I was like, promise me as soon as it's over, we come back. They were like, yeah, whatever. So we get here. 2 weeks later, the war ends. And I'm like, okay, we have to go back. And they're like, we're actually going to give this a chance. We're going to stay here. Because things in Lebanon are not going to get better. Even if the war is over, things like are still going to get shitty. And I was so upset. But then my older brother, Eddie, who was a senior in high school, had to go back and finish high school in Lebanon. So my dad went back with him. And me and my brother, Anthony, and my mom stayed here. So our family also got like split, which was really, really tough. I was 12. And so it was really, really tough. And so after that year, my dad was supposed to come here, and then he was like, actually, I don't want to go live in America. And so we all ended up going back.
And you went to school here for a year in New York? What
at
school
the French, at the French school, at the French lycée.
Okay. And in Lebanon, did you go to an American school because your English is so good?
French also, Lebanese French school. My English is good because I watched a lot of American TV.
Right. But when you actually moved here when you were 12, you didn't speak English?
I spoke enough.
Okay.
I spoke enough. My accent was definitely not as refined as it is now. I mean, I still have an accent now. You will hear it. Although I try very hard to cover it.
Why?
I don't know because I also don't know what accent is my real one.
Uh-huh.
Because when I talk to Lebanese people, my accent mirrors theirs. And then when I talk to American people, my accent mirrors theirs.
That's so interesting. I think a lot of people who have the experience of having like moved as a young kid and have like the immigrant experience and the fitting in have this thing that they mirror people's, you know, like even there's a word for it. I forgot right now what the word is, but there's a word for people who do that like mirror people's accents or even mannerisms.
Yeah.
You know, I have that too.
I have
lot.
that. It's so confusing, and I'm like, who am I?
Yeah. Sometimes people are like, why do you sound like you're Puerto Rican? And I'm like, oh, because I grew up in New York, and I guess like sometimes I like tried to fit in so much that I like wanted to, like I over assimilated and wanted to sound like the most New York thing ever.
Yeah. I definitely was trying when I got here in 2006. I was definitely trying to sound as little Lebanese as possible. Because also I got here in 2006. I was like 5 years post 9/11. And so we had received a few snarky comments here and there when we first got here from people that we met or people at stores, or when I said where I was from, I could feel tension. And so I was embarrassed because I was young. I didn't have the maturity to be like, yeah, well, fuck you. I'm very proud of where I'm from. I was just like already in a new place. I didn't want to feel isolated or anything. So I really tried to work on my accent so that people wouldn't know I was Lebanese or Arab.
Right. Yeah. Because it was something that was like shameful. Right?
Yeah, in a way.
Shameful.
Yeah, and I had never been in a place where, you know, I mean, I grew up in Lebanon, so being Lebanese in Lebanon, you have nothing to hide or be embarrassed about. We're all Lebanese.
Yeah.
But it was my first time being Lebanese not in Lebanon and seeing a sentiment of confusion or fear or just, people not liking it. So I was just very confused, you know. So I just didn't want to have to deal with that because I was already dealing with the fact that I was in a new country with people I didn't know. And
so every morning you went to school and you were like, hi, y'all. And they were like, what the fuck?
Well,
everybody knows you're Lebanese.
Thankfully, I was in a French school.
Right.
And I spoke French. So that made it easier.
Yeah.
For sure, it made it easier.
And had you been to New York at all or to the States at all?
No,
it was your first time?
It was my first time leaving Lebanon. Wow. I had never left Lebanon.
Wow.
So we took a bus from Lebanon to Syria.
Wow.
We got to Syria
from
and then...
Beirut?
No, so we were in the mountains. We went to the mountains.
That's where you grew up, in the mountains?
No, I grew up in Beirut.
Okay.
I mean, I would stay in the mountains a lot. We would spend a lot of times there. Like I would spend summers up there. My mom's village. It's actually the cedars of Lebanon. It's like it's in the mountains of Lebanon. It's like,
that must be so beautiful.
Beautiful. It's beautiful. It's like all you smell is just trees and cold air.
Like cypress trees, or what is it?
It's cedars.
Oh, cedars.
Yeah, just like the big cedars.
It's the cedar village.
Yeah. It's called the cedars, and it's this tree on our flag. And it's a beautiful mountain. It's where my mom grew up as well, and where my grandpa's from, and where my great-great-grandpa, everybody, like we have a very long lineage from that mountain. I mean, my dad is from somewhere else in Beirut, but my dad's like city is not as fun. So we just like ignore my dad, look at where my mom's from, because where my mom's from is like so cool. And so we stayed up there. Like shortly after the bomb started, we were in Beirut the first couple of days because we were like, they're going to stop. Because there was always like some bombs, some things here and there, and then they would stop. So we were like, they'll stop. And then eventually like sleeping under the like became a lot, you know? So my parents shipped me and my brothers up to the mountains with my grandparents. We would still hear the planes and a little bit of the bombs, but not as much. And then my parents stayed in the city, and then they ended up meeting us there. And my mom just one day showed up with our suitcases and our jewelry, just everything. And they locked the house in Beirut. They're like, we're going to New York tomorrow. We're taking a bus. Like, we have to leave. We don't know how long this war is going to last. We can't stay here. It's not safe. And so we took a bus. Ugh, it was horrible. Like, worst memory of my life. It was
being
horrible.
on that bus? Or
no, just the whole thing.
Process of leaving
the whole
and
thing.
Stuff?
Yeah, and it's funny because I was talking to my mom about it like 2 days ago. My mom and I were talking about it. We talk about it a lot because a part of me like really blames them in a way, because I was like, you guys really shamed me for being upset over leaving. And she's like, you know, you reminded me a lot of me when I was a kid, because my mom grew up in the Civil War, and there was this one year where they went to France. My mom and her family, when my mom was my age, like 12, they took them to France, and my mom was miserable in France, but then they ended up going back to Lebanon. She's like, you reminded me of me when I was in France, so I knew how much it was hurting you. So I was like, really? I reminded you of you? You understood what I was feeling, and still you were kind of a bitch about it with me? Everybody was like, you're such an ungrateful child. You're giving us attitude for getting you out of war. And I was like, okay, I'm a kid. Like, I was processing emotions I had never had before. And I was telling my mom, I was like, when I remember that war, I remember more the feeling that I had of like the survivor's guilt, like all of that, more than I remember the actual bombs and the fear of the war itself. It was more of like the trauma of leaving and feeling like detached and snatched away from home. And that was really what marked me the most, and still like comes back and haunts me more than, for some reason, like explosions and bombs haven't marked me as much as that, which is really weird because they're really scary. But I feel like because we grew up with these, and they prepare you for these, right? They prepare you for the bombs. They prepare you for the explosions. They prepare you for the instability. They don't prepare you for the psychological effect of the other things.
Right.
So the other stuff, you're like prepping your whole life. You're prepping. I mean, I remember the first bombs I heard, I was like 4 years old. So it was like, okay, it was a thing. But then all of a sudden, this new like mental fuckery trauma came in, and no one talks about that one. And so that's the one that I carry with me in a weird way. And I feel it every time I leave home. Now,
every time you come back
I come back here, I feel it. So every time I go to Lebanon and come back, the first couple of weeks to a month are very tough. They're very tough because I'm like reliving it a little bit, and I get confused because I'm like, wait, I chose this. I chose to be here. Why am I still feeling this? So I spiral even more, and it just gets a little bit more confusing. I can't remember what your original question was, but
no, but I think that's something that like a lot of people, I think, don't know or don't think about, especially when it comes to refugees or even, you know, the immigrant, you know, emigrating somewhere. I think a lot of people don't know how painful it is because of this, like, these conflicting emotions. You know, of course, it's like you're leaving to have a better life in a way, or because you have more opportunities somewhere, but you're leaving people behind. And like you say, the guilt of, you know, maybe having a better life than other people, or like you said, surviving something that others don't survive, or having the privilege to even be able to leave, you know, or whatever it may be. I think that's like something that almost isn't talked about enough in general, especially when, you know, you hear about refugees, or, you know, there's so much, you know, anti-immigrant rhetoric, or, you know, the refugees that were welcomed into, you know, Germany and the European countries in the last years. And it's like, oh, this is so great for them and they're being welcomed. And nobody talks about how much these people actually don't really want to be there. Nobody wants to leave their home.
Nobody wants to leave their home.
And you know, part of the thing that is like always a reoccurring thing when on this podcast, but also just for me in general, is like this, you know, these conflicting emotions of the immigrant experience being something really great because you have this like worldly mindset or view and you're opened up to all of it, but it's really painful because you lose a real like national identity in a way. And all of a sudden, you know, now I don't know if that's the case for you, but I imagine that probably in a way like you're the American girl now when you come home, and here you're the Lebanese girl, and it's like you're never.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why I'm like crying now. I have my period. But
Me
like
too.
it's like
That's crazy.
Oh my God. But it's like that's like there's a lot of pain in that too.
Yeah.
And guilt and stuff. So I totally get and think it's like so important to talk about that.
Yeah.
And especially as a 12-year-old. So you were here for a year and did you hate it the whole entire time?
Oh my God, I was miserable. It's funny because I'm still friends with my friends from school from French Lycée. I'm actually seeing them tonight after my show. Yeah, and I love them to death. But they all remember it, and they all remember it vividly, how miserable I was when I was here and how I made sure to let everybody know that this place sucks and it's not as cool as Lebanon and no one's as cool as Lebanese people and this and this and that, which, you know, I would never do that now if I was a kid. I just didn't know how to communicate. Oh, I'm sorry. You guys are great people. I just miss my home and my family so much, and I got snatched away from them unexpectedly. And it was just the year where I finally made my good group of friends at school, and I was so happy. And also growing up in Lebanon, like put the war and like the instability and everything aside, is so special and it's amazing. And I grew up, you know, very lucky over there. I was very well surrounded, you know, like my experience in Lebanon is not going to be the same as everybody else's experience in Lebanon, but in general, it's a very warm country. It's a very warm population. Like, it's beautiful. And I was so happy. It was the year where I finally was like, I found my place. I had my friends, my best friend, like, you know, I struggled a little bit in school the way every kid struggles. I had a little bit of bullies. I had the guy I liked that didn't like me back when I was 11 years old, and he was mean to me. He liked my friend in my class, not me, like the normal stuff. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I found my place. I'm so happy. We were having so much fun at the beginning of that summer, me and my friends, I remember. And then it was July 12th where everything just like the bombing started. And then everything just turned around, and I got here and it was just like, yeah. And also coming from a country like Lebanon to a city like New York when you're a kid, you know, when you come from a place that has so much culture and like it's a very tight-knit community and there's history, your friends, and all my friends, our parents were in class together and their parents were friends. And it's like, it's all a big family. And then you come to this big city where everybody's coming in and out. It's very individualistic. The culture is not like together as much as, like, there's no togethership as much. I don't know the word, but togetherness or whatever. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's confusing. So it's really confusing. And so it's not your language, and your dad is not here. Your big brother is not here. You don't know when you're going back. You don't know what the fuck's going on. You don't know if people even like you here or like your country or... So yeah, it was just like a lot of processing this. And so I didn't know how to explain these things to people. So all I went is, you guys suck and my friends over there are awesome. That's my 12-year-old brain. That's how my 12-year-old brain knew how to process what I was going through. And it took me years to understand. But then we went back to Lebanon. My mom wanted to stay here, but I was like, no fucking way. I'm not staying here, especially not without dad. So we went back. My mom ended up going back. And then as soon as I graduated high school, I wanted to come back here. And my mom was like, are you fucking serious? You brought me back here. Why did you want to come back
here when you
graduated? Because I grew up. And then I got, you know, turning 16, 17, 18. I was like, what is there for me here?
Did you know you wanted to do comedy or performance?
No, I wanted to be a doctor.
Oh, what kind?
I don't know. I just loved biology in high school. So I was like, gotta be a doctor. That's cool. I never thought, but I used to write a lot. I won a poetry contest once and things like I used to write a lot. I was always a writer.
And you just did that on your own for nobody?
For fun. For fun. I just like to write a lot. And so
do you remember what the poem was that you won?
I wrote a poem in class. So it was the year we all came back and my brother Eddie went to West Point, the military university here, the U.S. Army college. And it was a very tough time for me and him and my family. And so we were going through a rough time because of that. He was struggling over there, you know, being Arab. It wasn't very easy for him. So he went there for a year and then he had to leave because, you know, it was getting pretty bad.
Wow.
And so I wrote a poem to him. I was in class, in French class or something, and I just wrote a poem in like 5 minutes. I was always very good at rhymes in French. And so I wrote a poem and I called it to my brother. And then that day, our principal came in and was like, there's a French poetry contest. You can submit your poems. They'll select 300 poems that will be published. And then out of those 300 poems that will be published, they choose 10 people and they fly them out to Paris and blah, blah, blah. Whoa. So I was like, oh, cool. I have this poem I wrote. Let me just submit it. And then I forgot about it. And then I ended up being one of the 300 published. And they have like thousands of submissions.
Wow.
So I have this little booklet and I'm in this booklet. And then I was waiting to see I was going to be one of the 10. But I wasn't one of the 10 people who were flown out to Paris. Because like the 10 people who were flown out to Paris, like their poems were like poems. Mine was just like a thing that I wrote in 5 minutes. Maybe they are.
No, well, you know, the ones that win in
and think that this is going to be. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. I like, and so, I used to write a lot. And then I came to NYU, my first year of college. I came here for 1 semester. And I went back to Lebanon for Christmas break. And then when I was in Lebanon, my mom was like, you're not going back there. You're staying here. And I was like, what? My stuff was still here in New York and everything. I was like, I was only there 4 months. She's like, my mom, like, she set me up for failure. She was like, if you don't get straight A's, you can't stay in New York. And I obviously didn't get straight A's my freshman year of college in New York. Obviously. I was, it's my first time like with freedom, you know, I was just like exploring. But I did also lie about my grades because I wanted to stay. I made them think I got straight A's, and then they found out I lied. And then my mom was like, if you hadn't lied, I would have been ready to look past it and give you another chance. But because you lied, you're staying here. And it was a whole thing. But then I ended up staying in Lebanon. I finished college there. But then I was
because of that?
Yeah. And then I was like, as soon as I fucking graduate, I am out of here. Out of here. And also like during college, I was miserable. I hated college there. It was hot. It was traffic. It was loud. It was, I was working, and I became a writer in college at a production house. I was a screenwriter there.
Wow.
Loved it. But then we were making no money. I was like, what am I doing here? I need to go somewhere where I can have like real opportunity.
Where everybody makes no money.
Yeah. No, I mean, in Lebanon, everybody made no money. Like we made zero, and we worked so much, and there was so much, like we were these young kids at that started a production house, and we had so much hope, but then it didn't work out. I mean, they're doing great now, but that's 10 years later. They're killing it now, those guys. They're like, they have a deal with Netflix Middle East now. Like they're killing it. I'm still very good friends with them. I had dinner with them 3 weeks ago when I was there. But at the time it was like, I'm like, I got to go to New York because I knew New York. It's the only place I knew. And my uncles were here, and I had a few friends here, and I had my friends from the French school. So I was like, at least it's a place that I kind of know. It's the only America I know. So I took my jewelry, I sold it. Told my mom I was making the money at work at the production house, although we were making none.
Oh my God.
And then insane. I went straight. So I went to this jewelry store. It was like so in Lebanon, there's like this area where there's all the Armenian refugees, and they have a bunch of jewelry stores there. And so I went to one of those little Armenian shops. It's like this old Armenian couple. They're like 65, 70 years old. And I put my gold on their scale. And they were like, you sure you want to do this? Because this is like really nice jewelry. You're losing a lot of money here because we're only taking the gold. We're not taking the jewelry, you know? And I was like, whatever this is, please, just like they're like, you promise you didn't steal this? I was like, it's mine. It's like jewelry I got when I was born from my great grandmother, my like things like that. Shit. Yeah. And I like, a part of me now is like regretting it, but I was like, I'm just thinking of it as an investment that my ancestors made in me, you know? So they scaled it, and they were like, I think it made like $2,000. They were like, okay, we can give you like $2,000 for this. I was like, sold. They gave me the money. I went straight from the shop to the Air France offices in downtown Beirut. Like I drove straight from the shop to the offices, went upstairs, walked in, knocked on the door. I was like, hello, can I please buy a one-way ticket to New York? And then they were like, okay. So I gave them the cash. I bought a one-way ticket to New York. I didn't even have a ticket back. And I went back home. I didn't tell my mom for like a month. And then a month later, I started like slowly telling her like, I think I'm gonna move to New York, and then it just became a thing. Like, I'm moving to New York.
Wow, that's an insane story.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing you're writing a movie about your life anyway, because that's
Yeah,
like
I don't know about that. Yeah.
The Princess Bride meets Midnight Express or something like that. I don't even know.
I don't know what those are, but
you don't know the Princess Bride? Really? With the little guy that goes inconceivable.
Is it a cartoon?
No, it's a movie.
Oh.
It's
I don't know it.
It's a comedy, really.
Maybe
right?
I know it. I don't
Would you
know.
say it's a comedy? It's like a fantasy comedy. No,
I would say
watched
some
it in
found
Germany.
it funny. Some chuckled.
I watched it in Germany as a kid. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, and he says unvorstellbar in German. And then my parents became friends with the guy.
Nice.
And that was the first time I was starstruck because I was like,
Was he hot?
no, he's like the unhottest
But
actor ever.
but you
Wallace
know
Shawn.
the movie.
But I
and so
saw
you were
him and I was like, that's the
so cool.
unvorstellbar guy.
Oh, that's
but
so
wait,
cool.
that's so insane.
I know.
So, but also I love that they were like, we're going to rip you off. So
Yeah, they were very honest. They were
just
so sweet.
FYI.
They looked at me there because I looked like this young girl who's just like, hey.
That's
They're like,
crazy.
you sure you need this money? They're like, are you sure you need this money? I was like, yeah. And so, yeah, and I had a friend living here with her brother, and her brother was away for a couple of months. So she's like, come stay with me, and you can take my brother's room while you find a job. A good friend of mine.
And
from
were
Lebanon.
you a citizen or did you have
Yes, thank
papers?
God.
Okay.
Or else I would have never been able to.
And why were you a citizen?
So my dad came here in the 80s, and he
Okay.
just got a citizenship. I don't know how. So we were all born American.
Okay.
And my dad is always like, if I've done anything right to you kids, is that I've given you the citizenship and I've given you a way out of this country. And we're like, yeah, actually you did. It's like, that's not the one good thing, but it's definitely one of the top 5 things you've done for us for sure.
So you grew up speaking French and Arabic.
Yeah.
And obviously you speak English. Do you feel like you have different personalities in different languages?
100 million %.
Yeah.
100%.
So what's the Arabic, Natalie?
The real one.
Really?
I think it's the real one, yeah. Like the
Why?
French Arabic Natalie is the real one because that's the one I always was. It's not
Right.
one I've learned to become.
Uh-huh.
In English, I'm also always thinking and like translating and like sayings and things like that. Like I think really fast in French and Arabic. In English,
Right.
I don't think as fast, so I can't be as me and as sharp in English.
So you would say French and Arabic you're one person, English you're one person,
Yeah.
or is it Arabic one person, French one person, English one person?
I would say French, Arabic, one person. Yeah. And I jump between the two a lot when I'm having conversations with Lebanese people.
Do you do comedy in Arabic or
so
French?
I've done comedy in Arabic, and that was like when I did comedy in Arabic, I was so nervous. It was like 2 years ago because I had never done it, and I had to do 45 minutes at this private event, and I was so nervous. But it was actually after I did it, I was like, this is the most fun I've ever had on stage.
Wow.
Because I felt like I was talking like me, like really 100% me. I was talking to the crowd. I feel like there was old Arab women in the crowd. I was talking to them. It was like, I felt like when I sat in the middle of a living room in Lebanon at my grandma's and I'm like entertaining everybody and I'm like talking, or even with my friends, the things like that come, like the sayings, little sentences here and there, like the things we say, the funny things that come out. Like I was like, this is me. I was like, if I got out of there, I was like, it must be so nice for Americans when they do stand up in English. That's probably how they feel.
Right.
You know, like, oh, everything's just me and it comes out. Like for me, like now I've definitely gotten so much more comfortable. But when I first started comedy in English, like I had to memorize every word because I couldn't think fast enough in English. But now I can because I'm much more comfortable on stage and I'm much more comfortable at thinking in English. But there's always going to be a little bit like sometimes like I'm in the middle of a riff and I can't think of the words and I'm like,
Right.
fuck.
And it fucks
And
up the timing.
Yeah, it fucks up the timing,
Yeah.
fucks up everything. And I'm
Right.
like, okay, anyway.
Is Arabic a funny language?
It's really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's poetic, right?
It's poetic and Arabic is funny. And like
Why?
the
Like-
words, I don't know, like being aggressive in Arabic is so fun. It's really
Because
fun.
it's more accepted or more common?
I don't know. It's just like the
Or-
sayings in Arabic and the things people say are just hilarious. It's just like more absurd and there's less holding back. And even in Arabic, like even when we want to say nice things to each other, we say bad words to say nice things to each other.
Like
it's
what?
really funny.
Can you give me an example of something?
Like let's say like if you wanna like if you want to tell someone to go fuck themselves, for example, in a serious setting, like if you're pissed and you say like "gesichtig," for example, which is a bad word. You also say it like when you want to tell someone you really love them. You're like "gesichtig shu bhabbik," like you say, "Oh fuck you, I love you so much." But it's like common, you know.
That's cool.
Like we say bad words to show love. We say bad words to show anger, and we also use good words to show love, and we use good words to show anger. Like habibi, for example, which is one of the most famous words that people use here all the time. People say habibi, habibi. Habibi means my dear, my darling, my love.
Yeah.
But also when you're pissed at someone, you're in the middle of a fight, you're like habibi. Like,
really? You also call them habibi?
Yeah. Habibi. Like it's like the tone changes,
So
and you're like, you know, things is real. Like habibi, like I'm about to fucking tell you shit, you know. So yeah, it's a fun language. It's just like a fun. Arabs are just hilarious.
And have you done comedy in French?
I've never done comedy in French. Although I could. I'm pretty sure now that if I did it in Arabic, I definitely could in French. I just haven't had the opportunity to. I would like eventually when like I've accomplished enough here. I don't want to try to be doing too much at once, but now like as I grow here and I become like, you know, and I accomplish more things in America, I would definitely eventually in my career in a few years would like to go like spend a year in France and just like really do stand up in French.
So how did it happen here? How did you start? How did you go from wanting to be a doctor to starting to do comedy and doing it in English?
Well, it happened in Lebanon. When I was in college, my first year, I was like, I'm not going to be a doctor. This shit sucks. And I became a writer. I actually wanted to write a web series. I was like, I always loved to write. And then I don't know what happened one day. I was like, I want to write a show. So I wrote I Googled how to write a screenplay. And then I wrote a show. I wrote a whole show and I wrote the pilot. And I was like, okay, I got to shoot this now. So I put a whole team together. Like I went to the film school in Lebanon.
Let me go to the Armenians again.
Yeah. Actually, my director of photography was Armenian, Christopher Kishishan, who's now killing it all over the Middle East. He's really good. He was a student at the time. And so I found him. He was a student at the film school in Lebanon. And he's like, when he was a student, he was one of the best in his class. So if Chris was like, let's do this, everybody was like, okay, we'll follow Chris. All the other students followed him. So he put together a team. Like he helped me put together a team of like student filmmakers. I think all of them are really killing it right now. They're all doing pretty great. A lot of them are in Dubai, like, or all over the Middle East, you know, working in film and stuff. And so we filmed a pilot. I got friends and friends of friends to act in it. And then we edited it. And then I had a pilot. And then I started taking the pilot around Lebanon, being like, someone produced this. And everybody was like, no. Although it was good. It was good, but I would take it to the TV stations, and in the TV stations in Lebanon, like they don't do that kind of like, it was a very like Beirut style. I think it was really it was ahead of its time. Yeah. It really was, because like the kind of TV you see in Lebanon are like very soap opera-y, like love and vengeance, and this woman loves this man, but he doesn't love her back, and he's leaving his wife, and she's crying in full makeup, and like it's like a whole thing. And like they don't want TV in Lebanon, they don't want to go beyond that. Right. They're like, anything that's gonna make people think, we don't want. We just want the basic dumb shit. And so we have a rotation of 10 actors who are doing the same script in different scenarios. Like this is all our shows. So I would go to TV stations and they would laugh. They'd be like, But then I found those guys who had just started a production company. They were young. They were a couple years older than me. I showed them the show. We sat at this like little like snack place. We were eating sandwiches. I showed them and they were sitting there watching. They were like, this is the first thing you ever wrote and shot and everything? I was like, yeah. They're like, listen, it's not the best, but it's pretty good.
What was it about?
It was no, not at all. It was about two families that live in the same building in Beirut who used to be very close, but then something happened and they you know, the parents weren't as close anymore, but the kids were secretly still friends.
Oh, cool.
And then one of them had a dream of becoming a musician, which his dad was like, no, you're not going to do that. We don't do that, which is not a thing, you know, in Lebanon, like it's not part of the culture to be. And so I wanted to showcase Lebanese talent through that show. So through that character who's a musician and who goes behind his dad's back to try to make it in music, we introduced the Lebanese music scene. So in the first episode, I showed like a bunch of Lebanese singers and stuff like that through this character. I didn't know how to do it really well because, you know, I didn't know. I didn't have a good experience. But when I showed it to those guys, they're like, you're cool. Why don't you come join? We started a new production house. Why don't you just join us as a writer's assistant? I was like, I would love that, like anything. And so I put my show to the side and I started writing with them. Eventually, I became a co-writer.
Yeah.
And we used to work out of, my friend Denny, it was his company. We used to work out of his bedroom. That was our writer's room. And he lived with his grandma. His grandma would come in and just like clean and broom under our feet as we were like in the middle of writing. We're like, what the fuck? She was like this tiny little woman. Do you guys want to eat anything? And she was just like, and he's like, Grandma, we're working here. This is a professional setting.
I love it.
Yeah. And then we tried to make money, but we couldn't because also over there we were ahead of our time.
Right.
We wrote this TV show that like kind of takes a stab at the Lebanese government, and then nobody wanted to invest in that. They were too scared.
Yeah. And
so eventually I was like, Danny, I'm going to go to New York. I sold my jewelry, by the way. I'm going to go to New York. And he looked at me. He's like, what the fuck are you going to go do in New York? I was like, I don't know. Something. I want to write there. I want to write comedy. Like, I loved comedy. And that's what I used to write there. I was the comedy writer.
What were you watching? What kind of comedy were you?
The basic stuff. Because I didn't grow up with comedy. So, like, I would watch, like, Tina Fey videos or, like, SNL and things like that, or Key and Peele. And I was like, this is the best, or 30 Rock. And I was like, whoa. I was just like, this is where I'm going to go.
Yeah.
So stupid. And he was like, he's like, what do you think is going to happen, Natalie? And me and him talk about this a lot. We were talking about this 2 weeks ago when I was there, where he was like, what do you think? You think you're going to get to New York and just walk into 30 Rock and be like, hi, I'm here from Lebanon? I was like, well, maybe I won't get SNL, but I'll get something else. Like, I can aim for something this big. And then he's like, what do you mean? Like, shoot for the moon, land on the stars? Is that? And he was making fun of me. I was like, yeah. He was like, all right, kid, good luck. And then I came here, I started doing my thing. And every day, every time I go back to Lebanon, he's like, I'm so glad you didn't listen to me. Like, I'm so proud of you, blah, blah, blah. And we're always like, we'll work together again someday in a bigger, better setting.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically, so I got here, and on my first month here, I went to a comedy show, and that was my first time really witnessing stand-up comedy live, like the magic of it. And I was just like so amazed at how everybody was like, I remember there was one comedian who had like a 10-minute bit about ISIS. Everybody was laughing, and I had never heard someone like mock ISIS. You know, because this was 2015, like from 2013 or like 2012 to 2015, ISIS was like a real thing for us over there. You know, like they were at the border every week. We were like, are they finally going to get in? Are they going to get in? Are they going to get in? And the war in Syria was rampant. ISIS was like a thing. So I'm seeing this comedian up there just making fun of ISIS and everybody laughing. And I was just like so mesmerized by that concept. I was like, wow, like, whoa, you can just really say anything up there. And I thought that was so cool. And so I
like liberating, probably,
so
right?
liberating. I was like, yeah, it feels like there's nothing you can't say. This seems so cool. So I want to start this. So I just started writing, and I started getting on stage, and then I never stopped.
So you just started going to open mics immediately?
Yeah. I started writing.
Were you afraid or?
No.
Huh.
No, I was nervous, not afraid.
Right.
Not afraid. I always loved to talk. I used to like in high school, I used to like imitate all my teachers in front of the class and in front of the teachers.
Really?
I would imitate every single teacher in front of the whole class. And so I always loved being in front of people and like showcasing and things like that. But I struggled at the beginning because I didn't know the language of comedy.
Right.
I didn't know English as well. I wasn't as quick in English. So I struggled, but and also my jokes were so bad.
What were you writing jokes about? Do you remember one?
I'm so embarrassed. I can't even. I would say it, but then what if you just cut that clip up and it's just like the clip that makes the rounds? Not you, but someone somewhere.
That was the plan.
They were bad. And
that's what we aim for here.
Yeah, and I'm sure some people have my first joke somewhere on their computer.
But like, what would you write about? Would you write about that you're an immigrant? Or?
I would write about Lebanon. I would make fun of Lebanese people, and I would make fun of how Americans viewed Lebanese people. Very hacky things that you would expect. Like, haha, you guys all think we're terrorists. That's so funny.
Yeah.
So dumb.
But you have to get through the dumb
You have to get through that. Thank God it's over.
Yeah.
Thank God I grew from that. Imagine I was still doing that. Ugh.
Well, I mean, you know, I always, when you see people start out and then you hear those kinds of jokes, it's like you almost like, I always feel bad. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, you have so much to go
trying
through. Yeah.
And like you don't know where
I get
to
annoyed.
put it yet.
I get annoyed. When I see Arabs doing that, I get so angry.
Yeah.
Because some do it even after they're past the beginning phase.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
no excuse for that.
I'm like, what are we doing here, guys? Come on. We can't be doing that. Because I used to do that, but I learned very quick. Thankfully, I had someone who called me out for it, like my cousin in Lebanon. When I showed him my tape, he was like, what the fuck is this?
Really?
And then he like really put me at my place, and I was like, he's so right. And I got rid of my whole set and I started all over again. And then thank God.
What do you miss the most about Lebanon when you're here?
That's a hard question.
Your family, obviously.
Obviously, my family a lot, even though they're probably the reason I left. No, they're not. I love them. My family, my grandparents. I just miss being in a place that's my home.
Yeah.
And it's weird because but I miss a place that doesn't exist anymore for me.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You know, like my Lebanon, my home is not there anymore. I left and it changed so much since I left.
And it changed or you changed?
Both. And then I used to go back and feel like I was still a part of it. But then ever since the revolution and then the bomb, I think it changed Lebanese people so much, the ones who still live there. And so when I go there now, I feel like a stranger.
In what way do you think it changed them?
In a way that a fucking uprising and a bomb that ravages your whole city changes you. I don't know how to explain that. It's just, they're not the same. They went through something very traumatic altogether, and so they switched altogether after that. It changed them, right? And so they made that switch. I was here with them, and then I left, but then they were still in the same place they were at where I left. So when I come back, I would find them back where they were. Right. I'm still here. This is who I was. This is who you guys still are. We're still the same. And then the revolution in October of 2019 started, and then they started changing. They moved away from where I left them. And then the revolution got worse, and the economic situation got worse. They got, more tired, more angry, more like it became sadder, harder. So they became tougher, angrier. And then the bomb happened, and then it ravaged them psychologically, physically, meant everything. And now they're in a completely different place. So when I would go back home, before we could talk about the same things, or I knew where they were going, what they were feeling, because these were the things that I was feeling when I was there. But now when I go back and they tell me about how they're feeling, I can't go, yeah, I get it, because I don't anymore. I'm like that. And that's why I was afraid to get up on stage in the last 2 years. I didn't want to get up on stage there because I was like, what am I going to tell them? How hard it is for me being an Arab in America while they're here trying to figure out how they're going to get water and electricity and how they're going to get out of the house or maybe even stay in the house. And it's like a whole thing. And I told them that. But I went up on stage this year and I was like, the summer when I was there 2 weeks ago, I was like, I have to get up because if I don't get up on stage now, I'll never do it again. I can't keep disconnecting from them. I have to find a way to connect back because they're my people. And nothing matters to me more than my country. Really nothing.
Really?
Yeah, and I feel like I sound like annoying talking about it all the time. And it makes me so emotional, but it just matters to me so much. And at the end of the day, really everything I do goes back to that. What
is it that matters to like, you mean the representation of your country or the connection with it, or what do you mean when you say nothing matters to me more?
I think the connection with it, and then doing something that I can eventually bring back and help over there with, like when I think of like how much I want to succeed, when I start thinking about like, I wish I could, I have those dreams as a stand-up and as a writer and as an actor, I have those dreams of things that I want to do. And then when I think of those dreams, ultimately what I think about is like, imagine if I make it, when I go back to Lebanon, the things I can bring back with me and like the things I can start there, the opportunities I can eventually bring back, and making them proud gets me excited. Speaking about Lebanon makes me excited. Representing them well makes me excited. Just anything that I could give back to there makes me excited. Every time I go back and I'm like, imagine I was like a super successful comedian filmmaker right now. I could come here and like start a production company here, give people here jobs. Or if I do something here, I can hire Lebanese people to, or other Arabs to like do it. So I just like dreaming about this stuff gets me excited, and it's like ultimately that's what I'm thinking about.
Right.
That's what
so
I'm thinking
that's
about.
like a big goal, is to be able to make it big here so you can then
give back there. Yeah. And it sounds so corny. I hate saying it out loud, but it's really, it's the truth. Corny. Like every time I go back, I just feel frustrated that I can't be doing more to help. I just want to help.
Although I think that, I don't know why I'm thinking about this movie that I love, old movie from the 40s. It's called Sullivan's Travels. And it's about this guy, this movie producer. and he produces these like big blockbuster movies. And he's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do something for the people that touches the people. Like, look at the people out there. People don't have money and stuff like that.
But movies touch people.
Yeah, but he thinks like his movies are, you know, just shallow and stuff.
Okay.
And he's like, and I don't even know what it's like out there because I live in Hollywood, and so I have to go and experience life out there. And so he like dresses up as like poor man and goes out, and all this stuff happens to him, and he ends up in this like jail cell and blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
And at the end, he's in this jail.
Yeah.
And they all finally get like an entertainment night, and they all sit there and watch this like Mickey Mouse film, basically. And all the prisoners are like smiling and happy and laughing for the first time in their life. And he kind of looks around and like understands like, okay,
I did it.
I did, you know, like,
I did that thing.
So in a way, I don't know why I thought of that when you said, you know, what can I tell them? But I think that in a way, like just making people laugh.
That's
you know
what
I mean?
ended up happening.
You're already
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah.
And you're already doing it now by just doing what you do here, you know, and talking about, because, you know, I've known you for a while now, and you always talked about your country on stage, and you always, you know, made that part of your comedy. And I think that people watching you always, you know, I don't know, maybe learned something about Lebanon that they didn't know, or at least
I just hope that I don't sound like I'm trying to give a lesson or I'm trying to preach something.
No, I never thought that you sounded like that.
Yeah, you don't.
Well, you're funny. That's why.
Oh, thank you. I try to be.
But I think that, you know, it's interesting because I think that growing up the way that you did, it's probably very hard for you to talk about like basic shit on stage, because you grew up faced, for better or worse, whether you liked it or not, with like politics and real and heavy shit around you, right? So
but it was so normalized. You know the crazy thing my mom told me when I was telling you earlier that like we were talking about how about that summer we left, and she was like telling me, I really understood what you were going through because I felt the same thing when I went to Paris. She said something that I was like, oof, that shows a lot. She went, yeah, but Natalie, what you went through is normal. I went through it. Being snatched away from your home in the middle of war under the airstrike, that's normal. I'm like, are you hearing yourself? I'm like, that's the problem. No, it's not.
Well, I guess that's a coping mechanism.
Yeah, but to her, it's normal. And then so she never really fully was able to grasp the trauma that I was going, because I don't think she processed hers, because she's like, that's how we live. She goes, we did it so many times. She goes, because she was in a 15 year civil war, so they used to go and come and blah, blah, blah. She was telling me, like, stop being so, that's normal, what you went through. I'm like, no, it's not. Of course it's not.
A lot of, I think also immigrant kids or people with immigrant experiences have this experience that the parents don't, you know, mental health is not something
it's not.
that is addressed, especially not in, you know, well, really any cultures outside of like the US, not even in Germany that much, I have to say. You know, it's like, yeah, exactly. My dad like was super poor when he grew up, and like my mom was in prison in East Germany and moved from Romania, you know, against her will, and like a week before the wall was built, and then they were trapped there and she couldn't speak German, and when we moved here, I, you know, too was like, I hate it here and I don't want to be an outsider. And I remember it's so funny because it really reminds me of a lot of stuff I went through, although obviously I didn't grow up in war. But I remember my mom saying to me, but we're like Jewish and we're artists and we're outsiders. We're outsider people. And we're all like, I'm an immigrant to Germany. And I was like, but what the fuck? Like, no, it's not normal, you know, but I think it's a coping mechanism. And then the added thing that especially the immigrants, they it's like, well, I think because there's so much resistance to being weak. You can't be weak because you'll go under. You know, you're in a new place and you don't speak the language and you're not from there. And if you're weak, you're fucked. So mental health, addressing that, like, that's weakness immediately. You know what I'm saying? So it's really interesting, I think, how many people like struggle with that with their parents, to be like, this experience, like, you know, we have to talk about this.
Yeah.
And for your mom, it would be good to recognize that she was probably traumatized too.
Yeah, and she doesn't. But it's also like, it's hard to mention mental health. And I thought about that because I ruminated over that a lot. I'm like, why is mental health not addressed in a country like mine?
Yeah.
Like in the Middle East, people don't talk about mental health. When you go through war and things like that, you don't talk about mental health. But then people in America talk about mental health, and you're like, there's a disconnect here. I mean, those are the people, clearly people going through war and trauma need the help. But I think in those populations, by talking to my mom and by being there also and like understanding it, it's like, it's hard for them to go, oh, let me go talk to a therapist about this, because you know what's wrong. And what you know, like my mom is like, I'll give you an example. It's hard to like put it into words, but like my mom is like, she'll be like, what is a therapist going to fucking tell me? Yeah, I'm fucking living in misery. My country, I was in a near nuclear explosion. My country's crumbling down. We have no money. We have no food. We have no resources. What is the fucking therapist going to tell me? I'm upset because of this. What I need is for this shit to be fixed. So they're like, we know what's wrong. Usually go to get treated, and you go to therapy because you're going through a lot of emotions, or at least, and you don't know why, and you want to understand. But in a place like like in a situation like I'm taking in my mom, or like someone like her in Lebanon, they're like, we know what's wrong. We know what needs to be fixed. I'm not going to fucking go waste my time to see how I can feel better. I'm going to come back home. The problems are still going to fucking be there. So they're like, I don't understand why I need to go to, but they do.
Of course.
And it makes a big difference. And I know this because I've been in therapy for almost 2 years now. And I know that.
Yeah.
But in their situation, it's just like, what's the point? The fucking shit that's driving me miserable is still here. So when you're in the middle of all this in a country where it's like constant misery and horror and hurt and pain, you're like, what the fuck is a fucking person in a chair going to tell me right now that's going to help me?
Yeah, of course. No,
it's a hard concept to like wrap your head. Like when I tell my mom therapy, she's like, cute. Go back to New York, sweetheart.
Yeah,
Enjoy
exactly.
it. Enjoy it.
I mean, even my sister says that to me. She's like, you've become so American with your therapy. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. And she says therapy's for rich people, you know, who don't have problems. I have real problems. I don't need therapy.
Yeah.
So, but that's a mindset.
Yeah,
I think
because they have a lot of problems and they're like, what is my therapist going to fucking solve for me? I need to pay my bills.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, in a way, you know, I understand it. And in a way, like, again, when I look at my dad, for example, who also is kind of like, you know, he's a writer and stuff like that. So he like, he thinks a lot about people. And so he's not like therapy's terrible, but he rejects it for himself, you know? And when I think about it or I get angry about it, I think, yeah, he grew up so poor. You know, he like you described, he had no time to even consider therapy because he had to think about what he was going to eat, or where he was going to get money, and he had to pay rent at his fucking parents' house from 12 years on. He was working, he stopped going to school, and it's like, yeah, of course, you develop a survival mechanism where you're like, I don't need therapy, you know, like I don't need this because I am surviving. And I don't think that goes away. And I think like that's the thing, like it doesn't matter how much money you have or how good things become, that trauma like stays with you. And then it's funny because that's exactly what a therapist would help you deal with, and understand and all of that. But yeah, it's wow. I mean, there's so much to talk about there.
I know, we could talk about this for days.
But do you have, I love like sayings and proverbs and stuff from other languages or, you know, countries, cultures. Do you have one that you grew up with that you can think of? I have some that I found that are
I would love to hear yours.
From Lebanon. And it like has a 7 or like a 3 every time I guess it's a letter that doesn't exist.
So we use when you write Arabic with Latin letters.
Yeah. So you use numbers?
7 is like when you put a 7, it means h. When you put a 3, it means a.
Oh my God, you know this?
It's a, and then when it's a 5, it's ch.
That's amazing. Okay. So this, in English, it's go tile the ocean, but it's...
Yeah,
you know it?
So fun. Yes.
Yeah. What does it mean? It means like go do something that's like...
It's like my mom would say this all the time.
Really?
Yeah, it's like when you tell someone like if you're proposing something that's absurd.
Yeah.
And
Like
they want to be
futile.
like, get the fuck out of here. They go, hey, why don't you go just like put some rocks on the beach? Like build
I
a
love
deck on
that
the
image,
water.
though.
Go tile the water because
Yeah.
it's like something you can't
Impossible.
do. Yeah.
The Greeks have a saying
That's
that's
so funny.
it's
one
like,
of my favorite sayings, actually.
really?
I use it a lot. Yeah.
I love it. I was looking at this list and I was like, this one is so funny.
Yeah.
It's very poetic. Go tile the ocean.
Yeah.
The Greeks have a saying where they say like it's like trying to make a hole in water, which obviously is also impossible. But I love this. Go tile the ocean.
Yeah,
It's
like
how
when my
do you
mom would
say
tell
it?
me to fuck off, she'd be like, Natalie, روحي بلت البحر. Like, just
Okay, I'm not
go
gonna try
fucking
to
tile
say
the
that.
ocean. Yeah.
Okay,
It's
the other one
hilarious.
is you are living in a lettuce.
Let me read it in Arabic. Oh, this one I didn't use. عايش بالخسة.
No?
No.
So you don't know what it means? Because I
No.
don't know what it means. You're living
No.
in a lettuce? Like maybe your head's in the clouds?
Maybe.
Maybe? Do you eat lettuce?
Yeah, but we don't live. I mean, I've never heard that one. عايش بالخسة. One that's like known as like حياة دولاب, which means life is a wheel, which is like what goes around comes around.
Oh, that's nice.
Or الحياة جزرة. Also, حياة جزرة, which is life is a carrot.
What? Why?
Yeah, because there's a continuation to it. One day it's in your mouth, the other day it's up your ass.
How do you say the whole thing?
حياة جزرة نهار بيتيزك ونهار بيتمك, something like that. Like حياة جزرة. Like, yeah, it's like one day it's the carrot's in your mouth, the other day it's up your ass, which is like what?
Nice.
Who puts a carrot up their ass? But
Hey, you'd be surprised.
yeah,
Vegans. We see you.
Yeah, we have a lot of Lebanese sayings are actually hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a lot of good ones. Those two are my favorite.
But like go tell the ocean is just like hearing it, like it sounds so poetic in English.
But it's like this.
In
like,
Arabic, it sounds like, yeah, go fucking fuck off. You know, that's what it sounds like. It's just.
I love that. And I'm like, this poetry. And
Yeah,
really what
no,
it means,
it's not
like,
poetry.
fuck.
It literally means like when I'd be like, Mom, why can't I fucking go? Let me do this. You'd be like, روح بط البحر, and like fuck off. Like I'm not gonna fucking talk to you right now. It's a really funny saying, and we say it still.
Awesome.
We say
well,
it
I'm
still.
glad that
Good one.
I found that one.
Good research, Lucie.
Thank you so
You
much.
should be proud of
and then
yourself.
also, this is something I do on every episode. I have a little immigrant questionnaire.
Yeah.
It's the poll questionnaire. Are you ready to take this questionnaire,
Yeah. Are you gonna?
Natalie Aukar?
Yes, I am.
Okay. In a movie about the Statue of Liberty, who would you cast as the Statue of Liberty?
David Hasselhoff.
What? That's the best answer ever.
Because he's in front of me right now.
9 Nutella glasses.
Do you love him? You know, I used to watch Baywatch as a kid.
Yeah, of course.
And I used to say he was my husband. And not just him. I used to say David Hasselhoff, and I used to say Chuck Norris was my husband because I also watched.
Chuck Norris. That's
Because we
hilarious.
used to watch Walker, Texas Ranger.
That is so.
They used to play both Walker, Texas Ranger and Baywatch on this Lebanese TV channel. And I was
That's
obsessed
so
with David Hasselhoff and Chuck Norris. I was like,
I dressed up as Chuck Norris for Halloween once.
Yeah.
And I like pasted this like red
Beard?
beard stuff. And I've never been hit on as much in my life. I'll never forget this night. I was like, what the fuck is happening? It was-
Really?
yes.
I mean, you would. If I wore that, no one would hit on me.
No, everybody
You're
would hit
tiny
on
and
you.
adorable, you know,
No,
and you're like, you
you're
look like.
adorable.
But when I dress like a man, I look like a man. When I dress like a man, I look like a man.
What? That's
Because like I'm
insane.
tall, I'm like I have broad
For
shoulders.
those of you not watching this video, Natalie is like a smoking hot woman.
True. Both
Yeah.
can be true.
That you look like
But
a
when
man.
I
if you
dress like a man,
Okay.
I look like a man.
All
You
right.
know what I mean?
I'll let you have that.
Is there another question?
Oh, there's more questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the next one?
If you could add one face to Mount Rushmore, what face would you add?
My mom's.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I won't ask any follow up. We'll
Yeah.
just leave that.
My mother belongs up there.
All right. I love it.
I would remove all the other ones actually. I just put my mom.
If you could add one amendment to the U.S. Constitution, what amendment would you add?
Oh my God.
I'm
Lucie.
sorry. What? It's a you
But
can
that's
say
like the kind of
pass.
question where I have to say something really smart and that
don't.
make people go, "Oh my God,
No.
that's so true."
No, you don't. You can say everybody has to eat Nutella. That's what I
yeah,
would
that's what I would
probably
say. That's what I was about to say.
Yeah,
Just
that's my
like
answer for
give
everything.
Nutella the respect it deserves in this country. Stop talking
Perfect.
to me about peanut butter.
Yeah.
Talk to me about Nutella.
I warmed up to peanut butter.
Me too. Also, peanut butter and Nutella in a hot dog bun.
So fucking good.
I discovered this when I came. So I came summer of 2011. I spent a month in New York, and that was the month I discovered peanut butter, by the way.
Oh, yeah. I discovered it late, too.
Yeah?
I thought I didn't like it forever.
Peanut butter and Nutella. I gained 7 pounds that month in New York. No, I swear. I came back to Lebanon. My mom was like, who are you? I was like, I discovered this thing called peanut butter, and you mix it with Nutella, and it's the best thing you'll ever have. It's so good.
I love it.
Peanut butter and Nutella in a hot dog bun.
I love
Add that to the Constitution.
If you were the president of the United States of America, what American food would you ban?
I don't know what the thing is called, but it looks like smashed corn, but it's not.
Grits?
Yes.
I don't think I've ever had grits. They're fascinating to me too.
I don't like how it looks.
It's so funny that there's certain foods that are like fascinating to immigrants.
Yeah, I saw it and I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, that it's like slop.
Ugh, I just got
what do you call that stuff?
chills.
Slop?
It's polenta.
Mike,
It's just
this
what?
is Mike's.
Hominy is delicious.
I don't know what you're saying.
It's delicious.
Polenta is delicious,
He's
but it's
mad
not
at me.
polenta.
He's like,
Polenta is
But what else would I remove?
My grandma would make polenta.
Wet corn?
Wet corn.
White corn
White corn.
versus yellow corn.
Yeah,
Well,
but then like
there's the problem.
But then you tell me, but like other American foods, what is it? Like burgers? I'm not getting rid of that. Hot dogs? No.
So many people say hot dogs.
No,
I know.
I
when
love
I say,
hot
you
dogs.
can't say that in New York.
I love hot dogs.
Yeah, that's
if
like
if it wasn't bad for you and it didn't make my stomach explode, I would eat hot dogs every day.
Really?
A well-grilled hot dog
Every
and a
day?
good bun. I love a hot dog. And with ketchup on the side, you just dip a little bit, just as much as you want. You don't put the ketchup on the hot dog. You put it on the side and you just dip a little
What
bit.
about mustard?
No, I just want ketchup.
Oh, okay, got it. All right. Well, what is your favorite word in Arabic? Do you have one?
Not really. I mean, it's
Okay.
like, no.
All right. Fine. Next question. If you could deport one American person, who would you deport?
From America?
Yeah.
If I could deport one American person from America.
Yes. Who would you deport?
There's so many. I mean,
You could say multiple people, but you know,
my landlord.
your landlord. I love it. Didn't I once say to someone who didn't know what to say? I said, "You can say your landlord." Yes. I love
him.
this attitude.
Ugh.
Let's deport your
I'm
landlord.
leaving my apartment because of him.
Really?
Yeah.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah, he sucks.
Okay.
Didn't budge. Didn't he increased our rent 35%. Zalman.
35%?
Yeah.
And his name is Salmon?
Zalman.
Oh.
With a Z. Salmon. Yeah, he's a fish.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Zalman?
Yeah, I would deport Zalman. I would send him to Lebanon.
But I thought Lebanon is great.
Yeah, maybe he'll learn to be a good person. He'll learn to be kind.
Oh, I love that. And then lastly, Natalie, do you know how I can actually meet David Hasselhoff?
I would say if you just message him and send him a picture of yourself, he'll respond.
A picture?
Yeah, just be like, hey, it's me, Lucie.
So weird.
And my Chuck Norris beard. I know it looks weird to you right now, but you wouldn't believe when I wore this once for Halloween, I had never been hit on more.
Yeah.
Come
Okay.
see it live and you'll understand why.
Oh, I think that'll work. I'm actually going to do that. Too many people have now said I should message him.
Is he on Instagram or something?
Yeah, he's on Instagram.
Have you tried to message him ever?
I'm going to say yes.
I'm going to say
I don't know for sure,
I'm
but
gonna
I've
go with
definitely
a yes. Probably
Yeah.
yes.
Today?
Highly likely.
No, I've definitely commented on his post.
Well, yeah, he's not going to see that. You have to message
But
him.
like on my profile on Twitter, it says,
Do you love him?
Finger Nutella, I love David Hasselhoff or something.
But why
like
do you love him?
To spite my mother.
Okay, why does she hate him?
Well, I loved him when I was a kid and I
Yeah.
watched Baywatch and I was in Germany. I was a German kid. It's kind of
Right?
like
Baywatch played a lot
mandatory.
internationally.
Well,
it
it's
was
kind of
huge.
mandatory for German kids during that time to love David Hasselhoff and his music.
Why, was he German?
No, but he was a German pop phenomenon.
What?
Yes. Yes, nobody
He
knows this.
sang pop?
Yes, he
In
still
German?
does. No, well, this new song. He just put out a new song that Mike and I are crazy about. I love that
Mike,
I'm
you
dragging
love
Mike
it?
into this.
It's
The song
amazing.
is amazing.
Is it though?
Yeah, I'm going to send it to you. You'll be obsessed. But
Okay.
I loved him so much. And my parents slept in my like room back then. It wasn't my room. I guess I thought it was my room, but it was their room. And I played in there. I love that I said my parents slept in my room. I played in their room. But so I hung up a poster of him. And my mom was like, no, you have to take that down. She was like, I'm not sleeping under that pervert's face, basically. I don't know why she thought it was,
Baywatch?
I don't know. I think she thought
She's like,
he
he hangs out with women in bathing suits.
I think because all these little kids liked him so much. She was like, and then I was like, I love him. And she was like, in a year, you won't even like him anymore anyway. And I was like, I'm going to love him forever.
Yeah. Good for
And
you.
so I had a whole bit in one of my shows, like a dance. And it's been a long thing. Long thing. I have a letter that I
think
wrote
if
to
you
him.
message him and you send him a video message also in there, you can meet him. I don't think it's that hard for you to meet him if you really wanted to.
You think?
I feel like you're having fun with it and you haven't really tried yet.
No.
But I feel like if you really try.
I love that you're like, get fucking serious about this, okay?
Do you want this or not, Lucy? Look at what is this duck? What is this?
This is
not how you're
chicken.
gonna meet David Hasselhoff.
Is this a duck?
Yeah, it's a duck playing dead or something.
Okay. For those of you listening, we have some toys, some anti-stress toys on the table here.
That's actually really helped me, this one.
Isn't it?
The
I saw
green
that.
one? Yeah,
I saw that.
I played with it a lot.
Okay, well, Natalie, where can people find you on the social media?
They can find me on Instagram at natyourcolor and on Twitter at natyourcolor. I would say also on TikTok, but I haven't posted anything yet, but I will.
Perfect.
Eventually, at Nataly Aukar, NATALYAUKAR on TikTok.
And remind us of your show.
Yes, I'm doing my hour at Union Hall in New York on August 31st. It's at 7 p.m. The ticket is in my bio on my Instagram.
Yes.
And then if you're in Indiana, I'm also going to be headlining at Helium Comedy Club on August 19th and 20th in Indiana.
Ooh.
If anybody here is in Indiana, come find me.
Oh, go to Indiana. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Book your flight.
Or go. Yeah.
Go.
Let's say you're in like Canada right now, book a flight to Indiana.
Let's say you're in India right now. Book a flight to
Indiana. It
Yeah.
makes sense.
Let's say you're in Indiana.
Yeah.
Stay there. Don't move. Okay. Well, thank you so much. This was
Thank you,
amazing.
Lucy.
Thank you. I love you. You're the best.
Love you too.
One of my favorite people on earth. Thank you to everybody listening. Please check out
Pretty big
Natalie. Follow her, DM her. I don't know. Do whatever you want, but just fucking follow Natalie.
Yes.
Watch her set on Netflix as a joke on the YouTube channel. Come to New York, go to Indiana. Love everything from Lebanon. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you to Mike Albanese.
Thank you, Mike.
The best in the biz.
Best producer
ever. And thank you to the Rubber Chicken. Thank you to Douchebag Steve, aka Robbie, for your patronage. Thank you to my mother for her patronage.
Thank you to Dave Hasselhoff.
Thank you to David Hasselhoff for allowing us to
use his face.
Use your face and your likeness in perpetuity forever. And come back next time. Please rate, review, like, subscribe. We love you. Good night.
If you liked what you just heard, don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, recommend to all your friends, and if you hated it, recommend it to your enemies. Thank you for listening to Immigrant Jam, the podcast with me, Lucy Pohl. Have a delicious and nutritious day.